The chamber fell silent as the child stepped forward alone. No armor, no weapons, no escort. Across the vast hall, the alien tribunal adjusted their targeting fields, some in irritation, some in amusement. This was humanity's final delegation, and they had sent a child to answer a sentence of extinction.
The judgment hall of the Concordance was built to intimidate, a vast crescent chamber of white metal stone and suspended light, scaled for beings 3 times human height. Gravity fluctuated subtly, forcing visitors to constantly adjust, a deliberate reminder of dominance. Thousands of alien delegates hovered, perched, or stood upon tiered platforms, their forms as varied as their technologies: chitin, crystal, fluid light, plated muscle. At the center, a single circular platform awaited the accused species. Humanity stood there in silence. Or rather, one human did. A child no older than 12, barefoot against the cold alloy floor, wearing a simple gray garment without insignia. Dark hair neatly tied back, hands relaxed at their sides, calm eyes scanning the chamber without fear. A low murmur rippled through the hall. "This is an error," clicked a tall insectoid arbiter, its mandibles vibrating with restrained annoyance. "The human delegation has failed to appear." "They have appeared," replied another voice, smooth and metallic. "That is a human." Laughter followed, not mocking, measured, incredulous. Several species exchanged data flashes, confirming visual feeds. No hidden weapons, no cloaked drones, no psychic shielding. At the highest tier, the presiding triarch leaned forward. 3 minds bound into one will, their voices speaking in harmonic unison. "Human child, your species stands accused of systemic destabilization, unauthorized expansion, military escalation across 14 sectors. You were ordered to send representatives capable of defense or negotiation." The child looked up, meeting the triarch's gaze without hesitation. "I am capable," the child said softly. A ripple of irritation pulsed through the hall. "You misunderstand the gravity of this proceeding. This tribunal decides whether humanity will be sanctioned or erased." The child nodded once. "Yes," they said. "That's why I'm here." Silence fell again, thicker this time. Not disbelief, but curiosity edged with something unfamiliar. The child's biometric readings displayed on the tribunal's shared feed. Heart rate steady, cortisol low, neural activity sharply focused. No fear. At the edge of the chamber, unseen by most delegates, human observation satellites adjusted their alignment. Across dozens of star systems, fleets waited in complete radio silence, not advancing, not retreating, waiting. The triarch's central voice hardened. "Then speak, human. This is your final opportunity." The child took a slow breath, and the fate of an entire species balanced on that small, controlled motion.
The triarch gestured, and the air above the platform fractured in layered holograms. Star maps bloomed outward, entire regions marked with pulsing warning glyphs, human colonies, trade lanes, battle sites. "You expanded without consensus," the triarch said. "You fortified systems without authorization. You deployed autonomous defense networks that adapt beyond predictable parameters." The child watched the projections carefully, head tilting slightly as data streamed past. "We were attacked," the child replied. An avian delegate unfurled iridescent wings. "So were others. They adapted within limits." "We didn't have limits," the child said. A new hologram replaced the maps: burning worlds, shattered stations, human evacuation vessels fleeing under fire. The Concordance archives had been thorough. "You were offered protectorate status, safety in exchange for compliance." The child's eyes narrowed, not in anger but focus. "Yes, compliance meant disarming our border systems, slowing response times, waiting for approval. And you refused," the triarch said. "We calculated survival probability. It was unacceptable." A murmur passed through the delegates. Several species ran probability simulations of their own. The numbers aligned disturbingly well. The triarch leaned back. "Your species chose unilateral escalation. You weaponized logistics. You converted civilian manufacturing into wartime output without declaration. You turned retreat into counteroffensive." The child nodded once. "We learn quickly." A heavy silence followed. Your learning, the Triarch said, has destabilized the balance of power. Species older than your civilization now fear your reaction time. The child finally looked away from the holograms and back at the Triarch. Fear is data. It means you noticed. That statement landed harder than any threat. The Triarch's secondary minds conferred at relativistic speed. You presume intelligence excuses defiance. No, the child said calmly. We assume consequences are inevitable, so we plan for them. Another gesture, and the final hologram appeared. A countdown marker, sanction protocol, species termination, pending. You stand here, the Triarch said, because this council believes humanity may yet be redirected. The child studied the marker. You believe wrong, but not in the way you think. For the first time, several delegates shifted uncomfortably.
A crystalline delegate finally broke protocol. Explain, it resonated, voice refracting through the chamber. Why would a species facing extinction send a juvenile? The child didn't answer immediately. Instead, they reached into the loose sleeve of their garment and withdrew a small object, smooth, metallic, no larger than a coin. They held it up between two fingers. This, the child said, is why. Security fields spiked instantly. Weapon detection arrays screamed uncertainty rather than threat. The object emitted no radiation, no energy signature, no known particle interaction. It's inert, the child continued, by design. The Triarch narrowed its collective gaze. You test our patience. No, the child said, we test assumptions. The child placed the object gently onto the platform. With a soft click, the air above it shimmered. Not a hologram, something deeper. Space itself seemed to bend inward, forming a quiet, precise distortion. Gasps rippled across the chamber. That is impossible, murmured multiple delegates simultaneously. The child nodded. That's what our first models said too. Data feeds exploded across the concordance network as observers tried and failed to categorize the phenomenon. This device, the child said, is not a weapon. It's a key, a demonstration unit. The distortion collapsed cleanly, leaving the platform untouched. We sent a child, the child continued, because adults complicate negotiations. They posture, they threaten, they defend pride. The child looked up again, eyes steady. I don't represent pride. I represent outcome. The Triarch's tone shifted, no longer dismissive, now sharp with calculation. And what outcome is that? The child took a breath. To show you what humanity becomes when cornered, and why you don't want to finish this sentence. A heavy pause followed. You believe this changes the verdict, the Triarch asked. No, the child replied. I believe it explains it. Across human space, dormant systems awakened, not fleets, not weapons, infrastructure. The child stepped back from the platform, hands visible, non-threatening. You asked for a representative capable of negotiation. We sent the only one you couldn't intimidate. Silence fell again, this time laced with something new, respect.
The Triarch did not speak immediately. Instead, it opened a private analytic channel, then made the deliberate choice to broadcast it publicly. Transparency, rare and dangerous. Explain your doctrine, the Triarch said. The child nodded, as if expecting the request. We don't build to dominate, we build to adapt. The chamber's displays shifted again. Human industrial networks unfolded, civilian factories, logistics chains, power grids, nothing overtly military. You see weakness, the child continued. We see redundancy. Data streams highlighted how human systems reconfigured under stress, cargo ships converting to hospitals, then to fabrication hubs, energy grids rerouting autonomously under attack. You attacked our fleets, the child said calmly. We replaced them faster than you could track. You sanctioned our weapons research. We moved innovation into civilian sectors you weren't monitoring. The Triarch's secondary minds processed the implications. You blurred the line between war and survival, the Triarch said. Yes, because survival doesn't pause for permission. An armored Meptilian delegate hissed. This is precisely why you are dangerous. The child turned slightly toward the voice. No, this is why we're predictable. That drew attention. When humans face extinction-level pressure, we don't charge blindly. We reorganize, we distribute risk, we remove single points of failure, including leadership. The child looked back at the Triarch. That's why I'm here. I'm not important. The statement unstelled the chamber more than any display of force. You claim disposability as strength, the Triarch observed. We claim continuity, the child answered. If I fail, nothing stops. That frightens our enemies more than any flagship. The Triarch studied the child carefully. And the device you demonstrated. The child hesitated for the first time. It's a byproduct of solving energy scarcity while under blockade. Several delegates stiffened. "You accidentally discovered a strategic technology," the Triarch said slowly. "Yes," the child replied. "We kept it that way. Accidental means flexible." The Triarch leaned forward again. "You are telling us," it said, "that humanity's greatest weapon is not intent, but inevitability." The child gave a small nod. "We don't seek to win wars. We seek to outlast the conditions that cause them." The countdown marker remained, but it no longer felt certain.
The Triarch's voices converged, harmonizing into a single, colder tone. "Your explanation is sufficient," it said, "but not decisive." The sanction marker pulsed brighter. "The humanity's adaptability represents an uncontrolled variable," the Triarch continued. "The concordance exists to prevent such variables from collapsing interstellar order." The child did not interrupt. "Therefore," the Triarch said, "the termination protocol proceeds." Several delegates looked away, not from pity, but calculation. They were already modeling the aftermath. The child exhaled slowly. "Understood," they said. That response caused a pause. "You accept extinction?" the Triarch asked. "No," the child replied. "We accept consequences." The child reached down and tapped the platform twice with their bare foot, a simple gesture. Across known space, something changed. Not an attack, not a transmission. Permissions unlocked. The Triarch systems flared with alerts, civilian energy signatures spiking across human territories, then stabilizing into impossible efficiencies. "What have you done?" demanded the reptilian delegate. The child looked up. "We stopped pretending this was a military problem." The chamber displays flooded with data, human systems disengaging from centralized command entirely, colonies operating autonomously, yet in perfect coordination, energy generation exceeding prior theoretical limits, not weaponized but shared. "You're decentralizing under sanction," the Triarch said sharply. "We already did. You're just seeing it now." A new projection appeared uninvited, generated by human infrastructure itself. A map not of space, but of dependencies, trade routes, energy flows, maintenance cycles. The Concordance's hidden reliance on human logistical support became visible in stark clarity. Silence. "You built us into your stability," the child said quietly, "piece by piece, while watching our weapons." The Triarch froze. "You terminate us," the child continued, "and the systems you depend on unravel, not explosively, gradually, predictably." The sanction marker flickered. "This is not a threat, it's a consequence chain." The Triarch's voices dropped to a near whisper. "You planned this." The child shook their head. "We adapted to it." The hall no longer felt like a place of judgment. It felt like a point of no return. The Triarch did something unprecedented. It paused the tribunal. Across the chamber, time-sensitive processes halted. The sanction marker froze mid-pulse. "You engineered interdependence," the Triarch said slowly, "without disclosure." The child nodded. "Because disclosure would have triggered regulation. Regulation would have slowed adaptation." Several delegates exchanged encrypted bursts of alarm. "You weaponized necessity," accused the crystalline delegate. "No," the child replied, "we respected it." The Triarch leaned forward, towering presence filling the chamber's focus. "If we reverse the sanction," it said, "humanity remains a destabilizing force. If you don't," the child said evenly, "you fracture your own alliance." The Triarch searched the child's face for arrogance, for triumph. Found none. "What does humanity want?" the Triarch asked. They answered without hesitation. "Autonomy, accountability, and a seat that reflects contribution, not age." A murmur followed, not outrage, but agreement from unexpected quarters. "You would restructure the concordance," the Triarch said. "We already did," the child replied softly. "You just haven't updated the chart." Data confirmed it. The Triarch's voices fractured slightly, uncertainty bleeding through perfect harmony. "You are dangerous," it said. "Yes," the child agreed, "but we are careful." A long silence followed, not imposed, chosen. Then slowly the sanction marker dimmed. "Humanity's sentence is suspended," the child did not smile. "This council will deliberate structural reform," the Triarch announced, "with human participation." The child bowed, not submissive, but respectful. "We'll help, as long as survival remains non-negotiable." The Triarch watched the child step back from the platform. For the first time in its long existence, the Concordance understood something fundamental. Humanity had never been asking for permission. They were preparing for inevitability. The chamber remained silent long after the formal session ended.
Delegates lingered, studying the child from a distance now, not as an anomaly, but as a variable too significant to ignore. The Triarch addressed the hall one final time. "Let it be recorded," it said, "that humanity's representative demonstrated restraint under ultimate pressure." The child looked up. "We practice," they said. A faint ripple of something like approval passed through the chamber. As the child turned to leave, the Triarch spoke again, quietly this time. "You were dismissed because you were small," it said. "We assumed limitation." The child paused, then glanced back. "We're used to that," they replied. "What is humanity's final answer?" the Triarch asked. The child considered the question carefully. "Our answer," they said, "is continuity." They gestured subtly, and the chamber displays shifted one last time, not to weapons or infrastructure, but to something simpler. Human children across dozens of worlds, learning, building, adapting. "We don't end," the child continued. "We adjust, we integrate, we persist." The Triarch watched in silence. "You may outgrow us," it admitted. The child shook her head. "We'll grow with you, if you let us." The child stepped through the departure field, vanishing from the chamber. Across human space, systems remained calm. No celebration, no escalation, just continuation. The concordance recorded the session under a new classification. Not threat encountered, but civilization understood. And for the first time in galactic history, humanity was no longer underestimated. Not because they demanded respect, but because they made survival inevitable.